This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
And welcome to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, the Mike Tomlin news conference happened today. And no surprise here that the Steelers going with Justin Fields again at quarterback. Russell Wilson still not cleared medically to return, not expected to be a full participant in practice this week. And Tomlin said basically until that happens,
that's the plan until further notice, right? Okay. So interesting stuff. I mean, the offense needs to play better, of course. But Fields has done some good things. Not all of it's in the box score, and I think he's coming along reasonably well. I mean, there's some stuff I was looking at today. He was blitzed in that last game more than any game in his career, and he handled it better than any game in his career. Like, he was the most blitzed quarterback in the league last year, and because he wasn't good at it. Well, since he's been here, he's been good at it. You know, like, change of environment changes people, and I still don't think they're utilizing his legs to the fullest extent, probably on purpose. You know, they have other ball carriers, and they're catering things well to him. But you'd love to see Wilson, too, you know. Yeah,
and that'll happen at some point here, but for the time being, Tomlin basically repeating what he said yesterday. He said, look, until Russell Wilson is healthy, I can't have any kind of discussion what happens down the road. He said, but he did say today, look, I said at the beginning of the season that Russ is in pole position. He was going to be our starter. I haven't changed my mind about that.
I mean, Wilson's done nothing wrong.
No.
I mean, he's not going backwards, you know, right?
Yeah, and it's not like, to your point, Fields has gone out there and lit the world on fire here. They've scored one touchdown in 2 games.
Touchdown, So I saw this today. There's 4 teams in the NFL that have scored 1 touchdown so far offensively. Steelers are 2-0. Bears are 1-1. Denver and Carolina are 0-2. You know, like, it's hard to win that way, but they're winning other ways really, really well. You know, defense, special teams, turnovers. They're excelling in those departments. And again, Tuesday's like my stat day. I have a little more free time. I build my stat packet like crazy. And there was some interesting stuff about Fields along the lines of, you know how Pro Football Focus does their turnover-worthy stats? He only has 1 turnover-worthy play all year by their standards. I mean, he's protecting the football, which is, again, compared to what he did in Chicago, is the total opposite. If we got the Chicago version of Fields, I don't think the Steelers would lead the league in turnover differential. They might have some more big plays, possibly, but I don't want it to be 2-0.
Well, they're managing things well. And Tomlin was asked about that. He said, look, we're running the ball a lot because not only do we have, you know, basically a backup quarterback in there, we're playing on the road.
Yeah, true.
And we've had 3 young linemen make their make their debut. You're trying to protect those guys, too, and young linemen typically run block better than they pass block.
100%. And we know Arthur Smith wants to run the ball anyways. The Steelers wanted to run the ball before Arthur Smith anyway. Their backfield is a strength. Shortens the game. They want to be a physical football team. So it's working. I mean, you got to score more than 1 touchdown every other game, but, you know, there was some stuff called back, and they're winning in the margins. And what I think is – I put this out on Twitter last night. I think the Steelers are the best defense in the league right now.
You can make that argument. Now, the metrics and things of that nature
don't all agree.
They don't point to that. Right. But I think it passes the eye test.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Porter being able to hold Sutton and London to what he does.
Don't get me started on that, because I tweeted this out last night. I was just looking around Pro Football Focus to see if there was anything interesting there that came out of the game, and I noticed that they had Joey Porter Jr. as their 85th cornerback out of 98. Graded as the 85th cornerback out of 98 guys who qualified.
How does that actually work? I mean, I know he's had penalties. That's like the only negative thing you could say about him through 2 games.
He shut down Drake London and Cortland Sutton.
Yeah, right.
Like, shut him down.
And he follows more than anybody in the league, basically.
Yeah.
Like, it's like the Pouncey PFF thing.
Yeah, right.
Like, well, he graded really low for us, but the Steelers ask him to do more than any center in the league. Well, should there be kind of weighted curve here in some way, shape, or form? You know, that makes no sense to me at all.
Whatever, man. Again, that's why I always say when people bring up those grades, I'm like, who's giving the grades?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I hear you there.
You know. Anyways, I mean, the defense is playing well.
Yes.
So you're catering to the defense. The Chargers are doing the same thing.
It's a real similar script.
Yeah.
And Denver's not much better than Carolina, but Carolina's a distant 32nd in the.
I saw this today. How about this stat? The rookie quarterbacks in this year's class have yet to throw a touchdown pass.
Wow. Williams has been really bad. Daniels hasn't either. Okay. Yeah, that's nuts. But that's right. Wow.
That's 6 combined games, and they haven't thrown a single touchdown pass.
Yeah.
And it's kind of across the league, Matt, that scoring there are some teams that are scoring a bunch of points that are kind of skewing the curve a little bit.
The Saints
being one of them.
All the metrics are off the charts with them.
But overall, I don't see scoring being up right now across in the league.
I think it's way down, especially passing yardage. Like, perfect example is Pat Mahomes. I think he threw for like 150 yards this past week, who's we all agree is the best player on the planet.
Yeah. Josh Allen's not far behind. He threw for 135.
Very little, too. Yeah. Right. And I think Mahomes has the shortest average depth of target in the whole league. You know,
we thought that would change this year. He was that way last year.
Yep.
And we thought with the addition of that they got at wide receiver, that would they're going to open things back up again. Kelsey's a non-factor right now.
Yeah, Kelsey's not a factor too. It's just the way defenses are playing.
Yeah,
defenses won't give up explosives, so run the football. You know, and that just doesn't lead to a lot of points or passing yards.
Yeah, I wonder if how the league tweaks that or attacks that. I think that's one big reason why for the kickoff rule change,
and it hasn't bared fruit.
Yeah,
but I do think they wanted. It made me wonder, like watching that Broncos Steelers game, especially Garrett Bowles. Are they going to allow holding again?
I hope not.
It would hurt the Steelers.
I don't want to see a flag fest.
Right.
But I also don't want to see holding become legal again like it was in 2020.
Exactly, because 2020 is the last time scoring was up.
Yeah.
No one in the stands, COVID year, holding was legal. And every year since has been a pretty decent drop in the league. And if Roger Goodell was sitting here, he'd be like, that's one of the biggest problems we have in the whole league. You know, like we got to get scoring back up because the casual fan or the not-so-casual fan, they want to watch, and fantasy and all the stuff that attracts are not 9-6 games, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, we like that stuff, but
we're weirdos.
Yeah. But real quick, though, last night's game kind of makes the Steelers win in week 1 look a little better, doesn't it?
I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Because Cousins looked better. Then he
looked really good.
Much more comfortable than he did against the Steelers. Their O-line, Philadelphia was trying to get there with 4 and couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And
big holes for Bijan.
Yeah, London was a factor.
Yeah, exactly.
Their guys were. Bijan looked awesome.
He looked great.
Algier was just as good.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So
I almost wanted to tweet out during the game. I'm like, because when they kept putting Algier in, and if you looked at the carries, they were almost even though
were they?
I think Algier ended up with 11 or 12. He only played like 14 plays.
Mm-hmm. But he got the ball when he was in. Yeah.
And Bijan had 18. I'm like, I almost wanted to tweet out, why is Arthur Smith putting Tyler Algier on? Algier's good.
Algier's good, right. I mean, he would, like, the Chiefs would kill for him right now.
Oh, God,
yes. I mean, like, there's a lot of teams. The Cowboys. Right. Raiders, there's a lot of them. Yeah, he's a good football player. And your backs don't play 90% of the snaps, 80% of the snaps. It makes me crazy, too, because when we did all that homework for week 1, Bijan, in terms of, like, target percentage for running backs was like right with McCaffrey.
Yeah.
I mean, so they use them a lot. It's just,
you can't run a misconception. 30 times a game. And that's what you wanted. That's what Arthur Smith wants to do. 30 plus carries per game. It can't all be on Bijan.
In his rookie year?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I'm new to the league. Right.
But yeah, that victory, Atlanta looked like a much different team. Their defense gave Philadelphia fits.
Yeah, right.
If not for Jalen Hurts running around on some stuff and beating them with his legs, Philly was having a tough time scoring.
At all. Right. No, I think it makes the Steelers look a lot better. And you could convince me, coming off his injury at his age, Cousins was, quote, rusty in week 1.
But we talked about that.
Right.
That's their fault for not playing him in the preseason.
100%. But the line is what I kept coming back to. It was like the Steelers front whipped up on the Falcons front, which we know is good. And I bet starting last night, the Falcons front's going to show that it's good.
Yeah, it's going to look much better the rest of the line.
Yeah, they got beat up by the Steelers.
Yeah, and that's not all that surprising. We talked about that last week, that this Steelers line, defensive front, is going to have the advantage most weeks. It's going to be huge this week. It has to be huge this week because this Chargers line is good.
It's really good, and they did okay against the Raiders, which is a really good front. That Raiders team tortured.
They don't have as many guys, though.
No, they don't. They have two dudes that are stars, and Crosby's a superstar. Carolina's not a test.
They have nothing.
They have nothing. But they pushed around the Panthers to no end. Slater's the best one in the group. I mean, I think Slater's a great player. Alt looks really good already. Zion's playing well. I mean, it's a good young line. It reminds me of the Steelers. I mean, they just invested a lot of high picks.
We'll see how Alt holds up this week against T.J. Watt.
Oh, no doubt.
Different animal here.
And like the Broncos, they're not going to let Watt have a free release as much as he did in week 1. You know, things like that. There's so many tight ends on the field in this game coming up. There's going to be a lot of big bodies out there on Sunday.
Yeah, I was looking at it today, and Justin Fields in his first 2 games has thrown 43 passes.
Yeah. Herbert's not much different.
Herbert's thrown 47. Yeah. That's where I was going with that.
Okay.
Like, these guys both want to run the football. And
real quick on Herbert, he's thrown, what did you say, 49?
47.
47. Before this year, he averaged like 38 a game.
Yeah.
That's totally reinvented the guy.
But what was the one,
but
they didn't win. They couldn't consistently win throwing that many passes.
Right. Chargers coaches pre-Harbaugh and Fields coaches pre-Tomlin aren't as good as the guys they're playing with now.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now they're winning. Both these
because less can be more.
Yeah,
I mean, if you look at the leading passers, there's not Carr's barely thrown any passes either.
Yeah. I mean, he was one of the guys that was under 20 attempts last week, and they had 1 million points.
Yeah.
So, I mean, play with what you have,
Absolutely. In terms of some of the injury stuff, Tyler Matakevich has a hamstring, Michael Pruitt a knee, and Ben Skoranek a shoulder. I knew that one.
I didn't know any of them.
Tomlin said that basically what he said was Pruitt and Skoranek, because both of those guys are new to the team, need to at least get a full practice in before he feels good about those two. He said Matakevich might get a little bit more leeway.
Okay.
Just because he's been here, he knows a little bit more about the player. This is the same thing as Russell Wilson, guys.
That's right. It's the policy. That's the way they do it.
If he doesn't have a track record with you, he's not going to trust it. I've said it before with Vance McDonald. That first year they had Vance McDonald. McDonald would not practice on Wednesday and Thursday. He'd come back for a full practice on Friday, but Tomlin didn't trust it because he didn't have a track record with the guy.
And I think the logic behind that is once you set your inactives, you're stuck with these guys.
You got them, yeah.
And if it's, hey, coach, I can go, and you get out there,
and somebody
can't play it,
somebody pulled a hamstring in warm-ups on Sunday this week.
I'm not even sure. But like James Conner was always a perfect example.
It happened several times with Conner.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you're questionable. We're going to lean towards playing you. You're active, and then you have 2 carries, and I can't count on you anymore.
Yeah.
And these rosters aren't as big as people think. All of a sudden you're down, in this case, 2 of your best special teamers all of a sudden. They'd be like, oh, no. What are we going to do about that? You're going to have some wide receiver to run down on kicks.
And in the case of Pruitt, you got Rodney Williams sitting there on the practice squad. You know what he can do. If one of these other guys...
He's actually kind of similar to Pruitt. I've never put that together.
If one of these guys can't go, all of a sudden Rodney Williams becomes an important part of your special teams packages too.
They actually get better on special teams.
Well...
Than Pruitt.
Oh, he's better than Pruitt.
That's what I mean. Like, if you swapped him for Pruitt...
Matakevich and Skoranek have been awesome on special teams.
I was not talking about those two. I was talking about if it's just a 1-for-1 Pruitt for Williams.
Yeah, you're better on teams.
You're better on teams at that spot, and he could probably do adequate Pruitt stuff. Yeah. Pruitt plays a lot.
He plays a lot, and he's not a bad football player.
No, he's not.
Of course, Tomlin was also asked quite a bit about Broderick Jones in that situation, and went out of his way really to praise Troy Falatanu.
Really? I thought he played very well.
He said, look, this guy, I know he missed time, but since he walked through the door, he's been everything we thought and more. He said, this says more about, basically what he said is this says more about Falatanu than it does Broderick Jones.
Yeah.
Broderick Jones is going to get more opportunities. We're not down on Broderick Jones. Falatanu is just that good.
Yeah, and people will take this as a negative on Jones, of course.
Yeah.
But if Jones didn't exist and they drafted Christian Gonzalez last year instead, whatever. I mean, he still would exist, but he wouldn't be a Steeler. And they take Falatanu, everyone would just be like, well, they found another one. You don't have to compare the two.
Right.
Just sometimes you get that vibe, and you kind of got it with Frazier. You definitely got it with Porter a year ago. that they know they may have pulled one off on the rest of the league. Like, we shouldn't have got him that late.
I mean,
you
and I both had him rated higher than, where did he go, the 5th offensive tackle taken?
Yeah.
I think I had him like
those
3rd.
other guys were good, but he shouldn't have been there that much.
Yeah, I think I had him 3rd. You may have had him right in that area too.
Right in that neighborhood, yeah. I think I had Fashanu ahead of him, but I didn't have Fuaga ahead of him.
Yeah, I mean he's a great player.
They may have a great player.
It's not a bad problem to have.
Exactly.
And I asked you last night, I'm like, could you see a situation where maybe they talk about re-signing Dan Moore, and maybe you take Tanu or maybe you take Broderick Jones and say, hey, you're going to be a guard.
You're going to be a guard. And it's funny, I've thought about that a lot, and I did a mailbag show today, and someone asked me the exact same thing. And so I talked through it even more and kind of came to the conclusion. I texted you back. I'm like, that's really interesting. I'd never thought of that. But I do want to see Dan Moore. Not that they would resign him in the middle of the year anyway.
No, that's not going to happen.
But I want to see him against Myles Garrett twice. I want to see him against stiffer competition and give me 6 out of 7 good games.
But we did see that last year, and he more than held his own against some of those guys.
Yeah. I mean, he's an NFL left tackle. And the nature of the question I got was, well, don't let a cheap veteran go. I'm like, I don't know how cheap he's going to be.
Not going to be cheap.
He's going to cost more than Chooks made in New England, a lot more.
He'll make more than what Chooks made when he re-signed here, which was about $10 million a year.
Yeah, I was thinking 12, 14, who knows.
As a 25-year-old left tackle hitting the open market?
And he'd get more if he truly became a free agent as opposed to signing right after the season here. And he looks like he's a great prospect. We were just saying this, with Fautanu. But there were some out there that thought he's a guard. Yeah. And if I know this is a high praise, but Zach Martin was a tackle at Notre Dame. Half the draft community thought he was a tackle. Half thought he was a guard. We turned into the best guard in the league. I mean, if Fautanu could be the 10th best right tackle and Broderick Jones is the right tackle, or he could be in Daniel's spot and the best guard in the league, well, then your line's really good. Or, hey, you got a lot of cap space anyways. Give it to Dan Moore, and we'll just figure it out. Let's always have one extra offensive lineman.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a situation that, as we learned this year, I mean, we were talking in training camp, hey, you could trade one of these guys and get something back, and then
I thought Moore or Herbig might be
injuries happen.
Right. And now you're happy you get one extra lineman.
Yeah, and 2 in some, really.
No doubt.
Yeah. He also mentioned, Tomlin also mentioned that typically the Steelers.
I have a quick question before I apologize. Do you think Jones will be part of any sort of rotation in this game, or do you think he's
going to depend on how he practices this week?
Okay, because I can't see putting Fautanu on the bench for any reason anymore.
Yeah. Tomlin said he did that because he was concerned about Fautanu's conditioning in the first game.
And the altitude,
because he hadn't played. He hadn't played a full game. Okay. Even in the preseason, or even close to a full game in the preseason. It's your first game. You're in at Denver.
Yeah. Okay. I thought the plan was going to be, let's rotate the 2 of them, but Broderick kind of fell on his face, and so nix that immediately. Yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't mind seeing a 6th offensive lineman thrown out there too.
They could certainly do that as well.
Yeah.
So one of the things Tomlin mentioned is because the Steelers have had 19 penalties accepted against them in the first 2 weeks.
I think it's second most in the league.
He's bringing in officials. Usually they only do it on Friday for Friday's practice. He's bringing them in Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday this week to kind of try to clean some of that up. He's done this in the past, and it typically works.
Okay. Yeah, that was some research I did this morning, too. I think they're 31st. But in terms of yardage, they're like 24th.
Yeah, it hasn't been big yards.
Ridiculous yards, but a lot of them.
A lot of them, and some of them have erased some big stuff in terms of returns, in terms of defensive plays, obviously, in terms of big offensive plays.
Yeah. So that can't keep up. I mean, especially with the fine margin this team's played with the last couple of years.
Kind of makes what they've done even more remarkable.
Right.
You're 2-0, and you've been the second most penalized team in the league.
Mm-hmm. And another thing I said, it's that according to EPA, if you combine special teams and turnovers, no team in the league has benefited more than the Steelers. And they're up in the top left corner all by themselves, kind of like the Saints are in every category right now. That's hard to keep up, but it's one of those things that
it's just something that they have
Steelering it up,
Yeah, absolutely.
And defense, obviously.
Hey, you can listen to the SNR Drive on the Steelers audio network, as you're doing right now. We are live Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. on Steelers Nation Radio. You can also listen on demand. The podcast available on the Steelers mobile app. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive, and we will be back with more right after this. And welcome back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, it is power ranking day in the NFL.
Okay. I'm going to do one tonight, actually.
Well, it should be interesting this week. We talked a little bit about this yesterday. The Atlanta Falcons last night avoiding becoming the 10th 0-2 team in the league. Okay. So let's dig into this. We use Eric Edholm's rankings on NFL.com.
I think I know 32 is going to be.
That will be your Carolina Panthers.
Wow, are they bad?
They are awful, awful, awful.
So there's a lot of similarities between the Chargers and Steelers and style of play, and I respect their coaches, and we talked about the O-line and blah, blah, blah. But I warn you folks, when we talk Charger numbers, they're skewed.
They're skewed by a bunch.
Skewed. Yeah. When 50% of your games is against this team, it skews
Well, not only
things
that,
a lot.
but you've also played the Raiders who can't stop the run.
Right.
Which is an issue as well.
I mean, like, if this was Chargers radio, it'd be like, well, this is going to be a different test, folks.
J.K. Dobbins is averaging 9.9 yards a carry. He's averaging 10 yards a carry, basically.
Yeah. Just give it to him.
Over 2 games. I don't care if it was a one-game thing. You're averaging 10 yards a carry. He's averaging 10 yards a carry over 2 games.
This season. Yeah, and he looks great. He looks like a really good player. But that's not going to
He's not that good.
He's not going to average 10 against the Steelers.
No. Yeah, the Panthers are deadly last. They make the switch to Andy Dalton at quarterback this week.
I actually think that's something you have to do.
You have to, and maybe it makes their wide receivers relevant again in fantasy stuff. I mean, Deontay Johnson has like 4 catches in the first 2 games for like 20 yards.
And would you say the passing total?
They threw for 68 yards last week.
It's unbelievable. So I do think it helps the kid. If he can put his ego aside, just go sit down and
watch Andy do this, and maybe you'll learn something. Yeah.
And the other thing is, you can't evaluate the other 10 players on the field.
No, it's impossible.
Right, it's impossible. Right.
31. This is a little harsh.
I'm not sure who I'd pick here.
He has the Giants.
I thought that would be the pick because I thought loser of Washington Giants was going to get 31. I think I'd put Denver there.
I'd put Denver there.
Yeah. They're pretty bad.
Yeah, they can't. Their offense is not challenging at all.
No. And Jones is better than Nix at this stage of the game.
Yeah.
And they have
the Giants should have. If the Giants had a healthy kicker, they win that game on Sunday.
I think they win Washington. That game 7 out of 10 times.
Yeah. In fact, I might have Washington behind the Giants. Yeah.
Exactly. I agree. I think they're a worse team.
At 30, down 2 spots are Denver.
Okay.
Yeah. 29 down 3 spots. Tennessee.
Their offense is a disaster.
Will Levis is bad.
He's real bad.
Yeah.
You called this in June. Rudolph, they'd be better with Rudolph.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind. Hopkins might be done. The O-line, I'm not sure is better. I mean, they invested in it, but it's bad. Their defense is playing really well, though.
It is,
nobody would know.
But you can't overcome Levis's just stupid mistakes.
Right. I mean, just backbreaking stuff.
Yeah. Interceptions, just tossing the ball backwards to the other team. It's just dumb stuff.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I think they're better than Washington, though.
Yeah. At 28, up 1 spot is Washington. So he didn't bump them up too high.
Right. I mean, I get that you got to win, but put it in context.
At 27, holding steady, the Patriots.
I wouldn't push them too high.
No.
2 respectable
We said
games.
last week that this would be about as high as they get. Now, they might be better than those teams behind them.
I mean, take Seattle to overtime. I mean, it's been a good start to the season for the Patriots.
The defense looks solid despite missing some pieces.
Absolutely. And they're running the ball. I mean, they're
not going to run the ball consistently against everybody, though.
No, I don't think so. No, I still think they win 5 games.
At 26, up 4 spots, the Raiders. So this is who the Chargers have played. The Raiders and Carolina.
32. They just went to Baltimore and won.
I think it said more about Baltimore than it does
Yeah, I was
going to
hold my Baltimore thoughts till we got to them because I think they have some issues.
Yeah.
I mean, I still think they beat the Raiders 8 out of 10 times.
Yeah, I mean, they had a 10-point lead in that game.
That's
and
where
they
I'm going.
blew it.
I mean, you've talked
it's
about
happened
this
time and again with them.
Over and over and over.
For a team that runs the ball that well.
How do you not close teams out?
Yeah.
And you let Minshew throw all over you. I mean, accurately and easily.
They've given up the most passing yards in the league.
Have they really?
Yeah.
Wow.
At 25, down 11 spots, the Rams.
That's where they're at right now. And that's unfortunate.
It's not going to get better.
No. Cup is in the newest of them all. Could a team get Stafford at the trade deadline? I'm not suggesting Steelers should, by the way. I'm just, Is it blow it up time? I mean,
Miami might want him.
Miami should sure want him.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of that angle.
At 24, down 2 spots, the Indianapolis Colts.
You're right about Richardson's accuracies. I mean, he sprays things everywhere. But the run defense...
He's like a shotgun. He's like...
Yeah. The run defense is pitiful.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all the Packers could do. And I mean, they might as well put it up on the scoreboard. We're going to hand it to Josh Jacobs. And you couldn't do anything about it. Now Buckner's hurt.
Yeah.
Speaking of Miami, I may have mentioned them by now, too. They don't have their quarterback situation's as bad as anyone.
You got to drop them pretty good.
About.
If you're going to drop the Rams that far.
Right.
Yeah.
Same situation. Not necessarily your fault, but nobody cares about that.
23, down 4 spots, the Jaguars.
They're a mess.
Franchise, it's that franchise.
I think so, too. Like, I feel for Lawrence, but he's playing bad. You were heavy last week about how soft Miami is. This team's soft, too.
Soft.
They don't put anybody away. I mean, they don't play with power at all on offense. Yeah.
At 22, up 3 spots, the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah. I think they beat the Dolphins right now. They're favored against the Dolphins right now with the Dolphins quarterback situation.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they have a legit good offense.
Oh, I got some breaking Steelers news here. Tyler Matakevich goes to injured reserve.
Oh, okay.
The Steelers signing to their practice squad cornerback James Pierre.
Oh, okay. That's Scream Special Teams, folks.
And they also signed defensive back Deshaun Jameson. They cut Shaquan Davis and Zion Gilbert from their practice squad.
Okay. Well, Pierre's noteworthy, of course.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not going to have Skoranek this week available.
That's what I was thinking, right.
Pierre gives you a guy has been a gunner for you and done a good job with that. So
real quick, I mean, we were talking about this yesterday. I didn't realize Skoranek was even banged up. That he's done such a good job. He's going to get a helmet on Sunday. And then you got to put him on the roster.
Yeah.
Do you maybe just say, Pierre, why don't you be Skoranek for a week, and we'll cross the Skoranek bridge in week 4?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he may not be active this week if he can't practice because of the shoulder injury.
Yeah. I'm sure Pierre could be a gunner for you, though.
Yeah.
Today.
Yeah. At 21, down 6 spots, and this is where they belong. He was too high on them to begin with. The Chicago Bears. And I might
be a little
lower.
kind.
I think if they played the Cardinals right now, I'm picking the Cardinals.
Their O-line's been bad.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams has not been good. And, Allen's injured. I think they're like in Tennessee land.
At 20, up 3 spots, the Falcons.
I would have them higher.
That's a good win last night in Philadelphia.
Yeah. I mean, I was higher on them, and I didn't think it was a horrendous loss to the Steelers either, by the way.
Well, and I think that's part of this whole thing. I think the Steelers are one of these teams. We talked about it a lot. Everybody was too high on the Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was too low on the Steelers.
I agree. So you look at it like, oh, wow, that was a horrible loss in week 1.
Yeah.
They were 2.5-point favorites, and they lost to a pretty decent team.
Yeah.
I'd have Atlanta higher.
Yeah. At 19, up 2 spots, Seattle. The lowest of the 2-0 teams.
So we were just kind of talking about power ranks today, and I thought Seattle, Minnesota, Tampa, and I know the Saints have done great things, but those 4 to me are about the same. And I know they're all 2-0. They're all in the NFC. That's why I'm lumping them together.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'd rank them. I'd have the Saints first, but I would have them all together.
At 18, holding steady, Cleveland.
Okay. I think I'd have Seattle ahead of Cleveland.
At 17, down 8 spots, Miami.
Too kind. If you don't have a quarterback at all, I don't care about the other stuff.
Yeah.
Who was it? Oh, I was listening to Mike Lombardi's podcast today, and he was really going on a rant about coordinators that are head coaches versus head coaches. And he cited Tomlin a lot of, that's a head coach, you know. But where he was killing was Miami and Indy. Their offensive coordinators running the team. The play calling's great and all that, but you got to learn how to
just
play with power and
ignore the defense.
Yeah,
and,
how to put teams away and build for tomorrow, and O-lines matter, and
Yeah, it doesn't matter how good of a play caller you are, how good of a schemer you are. If you don't have a quarterback who can complete passes,
and that scheme and that quarterback fit each other perfectly.
You're paying Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle $50 million this year, more than $50 million, $60 million this year for nothing.
For nothing. I mean, like, the league we're in, I got fortunate, and I got Mason. There's no chance I'm going to start Waddle anymore. Like, I bet a lot of, like, fantasy leagues, he's not even startable. Again, no fault of his own.
Yeah. That's one of the big issues with wide receivers. Is if you don't have a quarterback,
right.
receivers can't throw the ball to themselves. You got to be able to get the ball to them. At 16.
That's way too high for Miami. Their defense isn't good enough to carry him.
No. Down 6 spots at 16, the Bengals.
Huh. I'd be kinder to the Bengals.
Yeah.
2 tough losses. I sent you this. They're 0-6 in the last 3 years in weeks 1 and 2. Are you not learning from your...
They've won one time under Taylor in week 1, in the first 2 weeks of the season.
Really? Since he's been there.
They're like 1-9.
And you still don't play your guys at all in the preseason. Like, you don't change anything you're doing? Come on, man.
At 15, up 5 spots, the 2-0 Vikings.
This would be thy neighborhood for them, yeah.
At 14, up 3 spots, the 2-0 Steelers.
Doesn't sound crazy.
It's where they should have been, though, from the beginning.
Yeah, right.
At 13, holding steady, are the Jets. The Steelers played the Jets right now.
I like Steelers' chances.
I like the Steelers.
I might put the Jets down several, well, not below Miami. But
I mean, they beat the Titans.
Right. I mean, I think the Vikings, maybe the Seahawks, are right there with the Jets, if not better.
Yeah. At 12, up 4 spots, the 2-0 Buccaneers.
I believe in them. I mean, you could go and you beat the Lions. There's something to be said for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although the Lions' week 1 win over the Rams doesn't look
quite so good
either.
Yeah. At 11, down 3 spots, Dallas.
Yeah. They don't handle power on defense very well either.
No.
I mean, they're not strong up the middle. They got a lot of safeties playing linebackers.
They can't run the ball.
They can't run the ball. I mean, they're a finesse team all of a sudden.
At 10, up 1 spot, Green Bay.
I'm fine with that, assuming Love is back.
We haven't gotten to a winless team yet.
When I did
they
my
can't be in the top 10. They can't.
Right.
And that would be the team that's at 9 that dropped 4 spots. That's Baltimore. They can't be in the top 10 right now.
I don't think they're better than the Bengals.
No.
I mean, if we talk about winless teams. So this was another thing Lombardi was talking about. He's like, Zach Orr's just not ready to be a defensive coordinator. He got thrust into it. Harbaugh's going to have to help him. This isn't uncommon in the league. Some guys get in there before they should.
This wasn't their plan.
It wasn't their plan. They didn't expect to get the whole defensive staff rated, and your point, they don't close teams out.
Yeah.
And that's been going on for years now.
Right. This isn't a new issue.
And as well as they run the football over the last couple of years, that doesn't add up to
crazy.
Me. And then the other thing Lombardi got a big kick out of is I guess they interviewed Harbaugh, and they were asking him about the offense, which is kind of rudderless right now. And he said something like, we don't feature anyone. And I immediately thought,
why'd you go get Derrick Henry?
Exactly. If you're going to feature, you don't get that guy unless you feature him.
Right.
I mean, you don't put
this isn't Gus Edwards anymore.
You don't get Derrick Henry, give him 11 carries a game.
No, it's
12
silly.
carries a game. Right. You have to feature him if you're going to get that guy. Just because of his style.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't. Like I said, they've given up the most passing yards in the league.
That's amazing to me.
Through 2 games.
The Raiders aren't loaded.
Okay, they played the Chiefs the first in week 1, and I've heard people say, "Well, they lost by a half an inch to the Chiefs in Kansas City." I'm like, "No, they didn't. That just would have tied the game."
But they were going to go for 2.
They were going to go for 2. There was no guarantee they would have gotten it.
Yeah. Right. So, no, I think that's too kind. For what we've seen on tape, they're still working on figuring that thing out. The O-line's not good.
That's not going to get fixed.
No.
They don't have guys on injured reserve waiting to come back.
Like, would you put the Vikings ahead of them? It's a little rich. I mean, like
they did just beat San Francisco.
Right. Or Tampa. I'm thinking of the 2-0 teams that were a little shocked or 2-0.
Well, at 8 is one of those teams, up 16 spots, the Saints.
Wow. I mean, what they've done is unbelievably impressive. That's a little rich for me.
They beat Carolina. One of those was against Carolina.
Right. And Dallas was wonderful. And the number of points, they have like a plus 60 point differential or something insane. I think that's a little rich, though. I don't know if they beat the Bengals
you're definitely going to think this one is rich because it's 7 up 5 spots are the Chargers.
That's crazy to me. They would be down 10 spots. I think they're worse than the Vikings, the Bucs, Seattle. Yeah.
Yeah, you beat the teams that are 29 and 32 on this list.
Yeah.
We knew going into the season their schedule was cake.
Absolutely.
I'm not convinced they're a great team. They're certainly not the 7th best team in the league.
If they come here and control the action and have 34 minutes of time of possession, run for 160, Herbert's not taking sacks, they're let up 10 points, I'll be on board with that's where they're at.
Yeah.
But I can tell you right now that won't be my Friday prediction.
No. I mean, I could see them winning this game because they do have the better quarterback.
Yep.
But
like
Steelers have the better defense.
Agreed. I mean, their defensive tackles.
Steelers have the better special teams.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah.
And they have the better coach, whether some people want to believe that or not.
And they're at home.
Yep. At 6, down 2 spots, Philadelphia.
I wouldn't crush them for last night. A.J. Brown being out's not great, though.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
And it's several weeks now.
Really high on the list of guys you don't want to lose on that team.
Their bye week is I think it's in week 5.
Oh, he won't play before that then.
Probably doesn't, no.
Yeah, I mean, that's when he gets hurt in practice, too. That stings.
5 down 2 spots is Detroit.
I'm not worried. I mean, I said, boy, the Rams win doesn't look as great, but I still think they'll
figure
good.
it out.
Yeah. Hutchinson had 4.5 sacks this week.
3 in the first quarter. Buffalo at 4 up 3 spots.
I'm cool with it. I think it's really encouraging that they showed they can win without Allen putting the Superman cape on. Just we don't have to. That can't be our only formula.
They just smothered Miami.
Miami. Yep. They're a well-coached team too.
At 3 up 3 spots is Houston.
I'm there with that too. I like what they're doing. They fly around the football on defense. Petrie and those guys, they make plays.
At 2, holding steady, despite losing last week, is San Francisco.
I agree. I would go KC, San Fran, Houston.
And 1 is Kansas City.
Would you still have Debo's going to be out for a little while?
See, I think you got to look at who they're going to be playing. They don't have McCaffrey, and now they don't have Debo.
Right.
San Francisco is going to lose some games.
Yeah, they are. I don't know if their defense is quite where it's been. Usually their D-line's got 7 or 8 dudes. This year they got 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And Hargrave is a really good player, but he doesn't stop the run like people think he does.
No.
Just because he's a wide body. I mean, he gets up the field. They can be a little vulnerable up the middle. Would they be your 2?
No.
Who would? Buffalo? Detroit?
Maybe Houston.
Houston's playing well.
Yeah.
Their quarterback's really legit.
Yeah. He's a good player.
I think that's
the defense is good.
That's the one team I would consider bumping the Niners for.
Yeah.
But that'd only move them to 3 probably.
But wouldn't surprise. I don't know who they play next week yet. We'll get into that in the fantasy segment. But
very well. It wouldn't be a bad time to play.
Typically, have not done well when they've been missing some of their pieces like this.
Yeah, I think they tend to lose games in bunches.
Yeah.
When they're rolling, they're rolling.
Last year I think it was Trent Williams and Debo who were out, and they went on a little bit of a losing streak.
It's such a top-heavy roster. I mean, they have 5 of the best 20 players on the planet.
Yeah, and then not a whole lot after that.
Right, exactly. So it gets tested quick.
Absolutely. That was Eric Edholmes.
One Niner question. If I gave you the Niners or the rest of the NFC West to win the division, are you there yet on any of those teams?
No.
I'm still taking the Niners. Yeah. I kind of like what Seattle's doing, but they're not going to win 11 games.
No. No, definitely not. That was Eric Edholmes' Power Rankings on NFL.com. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this.
This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
Welcome back to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, as we mentioned there briefly in the previous segment, Tua Tagovailoa to injured reserve with that concussion. Dolphins are in trouble.
Dolphins are in huge trouble. I mean, it might be a little early. I mean, we're in the middle of September here. I don't know if they can make the playoffs. I mean, they would have to come back.
That's at least 4 games.
I know.
And
they're 1-1 right now?
Yeah.
And they didn't look good. I mean, like you said yesterday, he played the majority of that game against the Bills.
Yeah, and
they were vastly outplayed. I mean, that was a miserable performance by the Dolphins, and then injury on top of ineptitude there. And I can't imagine it's only going to be 4 weeks.
We just don't know.
We don't know. I mean, I guess what do I know? I mean, he may never play again. He might be back in week 6 or whatever.
But this week they travel to Seattle.
They're a dog there.
They're a dog.
Big dog, I would think.
Then they get the Titans at home. okay.
Maybe. But like we just did power ranks, I would have those two right next to each other.
Yeah.
You
know? Then the Dolphins travel to New England.
I don't love that for them. You would think you chalk that up as a win going into the season, but I bet New England runs on them, and I bet it's a low-scoring game, and we'll take our chances.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Huntley's established himself at that point, or I don't even know if he's going to take
Even
over
if
the
he
starting
does,
job. Right. I never thought he was
he's
good
limited,
to begin with.
yeah.
Right.
Then they play the Colts.
He actually is not a rhythm-type passer either. His style of play doesn't
fit with what they want to do.
He's a hold the ball and dump it down. He's not a on-target or that type of guy.
Then on October 20th, they play in Indianapolis. So 3 of these games, next 4 games, on the road.
Not a bad slate, though.
Not terrible, but that just assumes that you get him back after 4 weeks.
We all make the mistakes of looking at the schedule when it first comes out and be like, they should win. This is an easy stretch. This is a hard stretch. You really don't know, of course.
Yeah.
But they probably looked at this like, oh, we're going to start the season on fire. We're going to be 6-1, and then it gets more difficult. I think the rest of their schedule's really hard. It's really backloaded.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the back end of the schedule,
because they have to play cold weather games at the end of the year, from what I remember, which isn't how they're suited when they're at their best.
Starting in November at the Bills, at the Rams, Raiders at Dolphins, Patriots at Dolphins, Dolphins at Packers, Jets at Dolphins, Dolphins at Texans, 49ers at Dolphins, Dolphins at Browns, Dolphins at Jets.
I would put them low on the list if we were thinking about doing this for a podcast like maybe this week we only know 2 things. We have 2 data points on every team. If we were to redo our predictions, who the playoff teams are in the AFC.
Miami wouldn't be one of them.
They'd be far off.
Yeah.
I mean, and Jacksonville's rough. Indy's rough. I can't imagine a second team of the South coming out.
Yeah.
The Jets are worse than I thought.
I don't have to look real hard here at Miami's schedule to find 8 losses.
100%.
I mean, even with Tua.
Yeah.
Assuming he comes back. Because if you lose, let's say you go 2-2.
And they should take that.
Absolutely. With your backup
even
quarterback.
Though that's not bad, they're not playing hard teams.
Now you're 3-3. And then you got to play Buffalo. In Buffalo. You can't beat Buffalo. Now you got 4 losses.
You lost the Bills at home.
Yeah.
And when it was supposed to be hot, when you had them right where you want them.
Are you going to sweep the Jets? No.
Probably not. No.
Probably not.
I bet New England gets one off them.
Yeah.
I mean, no, I think they're in trouble.
Yeah. So
the AFC in general, I think, is much weaker or much easier to get in that final 7 than I would have guessed by 1,000. I mean, no one thought Baltimore and Cincy would not have a win yet.
Yeah.
Chargers don't scare me all of a sudden as they're going to be a 14-win team and be a juggernaut. Denver and the Raiders aren't good. Denver definitely isn't good.
Denver's not good, yeah.
And I don't think the South is good outside of Houston.
Doesn't leave a whole lot.
Jets are sitting fine.
I mean, we could be looking at
going to the playoffs.
We could be looking at 3 AFC North teams again this year.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm the Browns, I'm thinking things went bad for us, but
we're 1-1.
We could be okay.
Yeah.
If they were lost in Jacksonville, they'd have been.
Yeah.
I mean, if the rest of the division was 0-2 and the Steelers were 2-0, I mean, that would be
we'd be having all kinds of different conversations right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So that was a saver for them. It's kind of like the Packers getting a win when you probably shouldn't. You know, like you steal one, but one, that goes a long way.
But Miami's in some trouble.
Yeah. If I'm like the Jets or the Browns, I'm not like we haven't played very well, but we got time. We're not dead yet. There's some teams that are looking to circle in the drain a little bit.
Absolutely. And I just want to remind people the Steelers have done what they've done with their backup quarterback.
Yeah. And really, the loser of Chargers Steelers is still fine in the picture, in the whole mathematical side of things. Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's get to a break. That's going to do it for hour number 1 of The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with hour number 2 right after this. And welcome back. I'm Dale Lolley. He's Matt Williamson, and it is time for the Fantasy Football Focus, Matt.
All righty.
And I just mentioned, we were just talking, you mentioned a good band name that you had thought of. How about the Waiver Wire Pickups?
Okay. What kind of band, what do they play? I'm kind of thinking like a Petty feel to them.
They can play just about anything.
They
because,
can pick it up.
Yeah.
You got to be versatile. Did we pick defenses that are good to stream this year? I think that was a Monday thing.
No, it's a Tuesday thing.
All right. I don't have
we'll
our
do that
routine
after we
down.
get through the waiver wire pickups
okay,
here.
Cool. Okay, I thought we missed it yesterday.
So at quarterback this week, Derek Carr's only owned in 34% of leagues.
I think he'll be owned in like all at this point.
Yeah.
He still doesn't run though.
Doesn't run. That hasn't put up big yardage numbers.
No,
he's not going to throw
16 times.
He's not going to throw 2 or 3 touchdowns every week.
If I owned him, I'd try to trade him.
Yeah, that's kind of my point.
Yeah.
Like this is
yeah,
his
you
high
pick him
point.
up.
Yeah,
But yeah.
Especially if you're. I mean, he's probably already owned in super.
No,
flex
super
leagues,
flex
yeah.
he is. Yeah.
Geno Smith's owned in 34% of leagues. He should be. He does run a little bit.
He runs a little bit. He puts up big numbers. He's one of the few 300-yard passers. I think he's a really underrated player, too. He's got 3 good weapons.
Yeah.
No, he should be in every league.
Sam Darnold.
Like, I'm thinking, like, all
Should be
these
owned.
guys I want over, like, Stafford at this point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Guys that were clearly
I mean,
drafted.
you got some if you have Jordan Love or Tua right now,
there's
or
that
Stafford,
problem.
you're like, I can't play him now.
I can't play him anymore, right. And there's a couple quarterbacks that are drying up quick.
Yeah. Justin Fields still available in a lot of leagues. We know he's going to start again this week.
Just from a fantasy perspective, he couldn't have gotten more shortchanged for the way he's been used for 2 weeks in a row. You know, like he's going to score touchdowns. You know what I mean? Like,
if he completes the 51-yard pass to Pickens, people are talking about his game last week much differently than what they.
No doubt.
It was a great pass
that
on the
too.
run.
It was a great play, yeah.
But it adds 50 more yards to his total. They probably score another touchdown there.
And then the Pickens touchdown that came back.
Yeah.
You know, like his fantasy background is way too strong. He's going to be fine.
Yeah. I mean, I have Love right now in our league, and I picked Fields up.
Mm-hmm.
And
like, who are you debating?
I don't want
playing him again?
to. Like, I could pick up Darnold or Carr, but I'm like,
I think I'd start Fields.
I'm going to roll with Fields.
I mean, 50 yards rushing goes a long way,
Yeah.
and he's almost guaranteed that every
I mean,
week.
even last week, he still got 8 carries. Now, it only went for like 32 yards, but he still got 8 carries.
Yeah, exactly.
He's going to break one at some point.
That's what I mean. Like, if you just look, the real fantasy nerds that really study the usage and say, you should have this many expected points, he's like way below that.
Yeah.
And that usually just corrects itself.
Yeah.
Because they're going to use him the same way.
He's got 20 carries in the first 2 games.
Yeah.
And the guy has averaged over 50 rushing yards in his career.
Like, everyone's so excited about Jalen Daniels as a fantasy asset. And he's the only one that has more rushing yards at the quarterback position than Fields.
Yeah.
And has he been better? No.
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 Gardner Minshew.
I don't know. Like, I'd take Darnold over
Their
Minshew.
defense is just bad enough, though,
I know.
that he's going to have to keep throwing. And the weapons are
The
good.
weapons are good. And Bowers is like the dump-off
And they
option.
can't run the football.
Right. The situation is ideal.
Yeah.
Like, a really good quarterback in that situation would tear it up.
Like,
you
if they still had Carr right now.
Right.
Ugh.
Yeah. Well, nothing's better than the Saints situation at the
Right.
moment. But,
Yeah.
right. No, I hear you.
At running back, Carson Steele and Samaje Perine are owned in 3 and 4% of leagues.
And they signed Hunt, though.
They signed Hunt, but he's on the practice squad.
Practice squad.
And, oh, by the way, how about this? I heard this morning on a fantasy show. Hunt last year was like the 3rd slowest running back in the league.
He stinks.
Perine was the 2nd slowest.
Yeah. Okay. Could they be in the
And
market
they're both
for
like
trade, or-
pass catching backs.
Yeah,
which is
right.
kind of crazy.
Yeah. I mean, they can't be slow. We haven't talked about that. I mean, Pacheco's out, what, 6 weeks?
At least.
I mean, he's
With
got a broken leg.
Yeah, he got a broken leg.
I don't know if any of those guys I would put a huge fab dollar bid in, though. I mean, it's just a little uncertain.
Steele showed some
Yeah, I know. He's kind of
pop
interesting.
in the preseason.
I think it's good for Mahomes.
If it were me, Steele would be the guy I would pick up.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's definitely going to get the early work and probably the short yardage stuff.
Which is enough.
Yeah.
I mean, just for people who don't have been playing fantasy as long as
typically
us.
they're playing from ahead.
Yeah.
Like they played the Ravens and Bengals the first 2 weeks, and they got into kind of dogfights with those 2 teams.
Just running backs hit all year long, injuries.
Yeah.
And if you can find guys that are going to get 60% of their snaps, especially on a good offense, it doesn't really matter if they're good or bad.
Yeah.
You can win with them.
Braylon Allen owned in 10% of leagues.
I think he's just impressive.
He should
looking.
already be in.
Like, if you're the Hall owner and you don't own him,
Yeah,
you're
shame
crazy.
on you.
Yeah.
Because he was your first round draft pick.
Mm-hmm.
When people talk about handcuffing, you're not handcuffing your number 2 back.
No.
You handcuff your first round draft pick so you don't end up in the McCaffrey situation.
Mason conversation, right? No, he should be in most leagues.
Antonio Gibson.
He's looking good, and they run the ball a lot.
Yeah.
But he's one of those ones, like, it's hard to hit the the check in the box.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I mean, especially you need a Stevenson injury for that.
You and I have both been down that road way too many times.
And it usually stings you the wrong way.
Rico Dowdell outsnapped and outtouched Ezekiel Elliott.
I think he's better.
Yeah.
I wanted to draft him in both the leagues I'm in and didn't. I just said, but he falls really late. He's got a chance to step up.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be interested.
Ty Chandler, we've talked a lot about him.
I think he's a good player.
Yeah. Chuba Hubbard.
Like,
he's
Dalton helps the whole offense.
Yeah. He should be better moving forward.
Yeah. He's a good back, too.
Yeah.
He's not a great back, but, like.
You could do worse.
I think we've had this conversation. Like, if you would have put Chuba in Kansas City and Pacheco in Carolina.
Yeah.
Chuba might be a second-round pick.
People be talking about him as a star.
Right, right, exactly. Yeah, neither one's great. They'd both be the third back here, but doesn't matter.
Cam Akers. Joe Mix has got that ankle
Him and
injury.
Pierce are both.
Pierce is banged up though last week.
Yeah, they really liked Akers in the preseason.
Yeah,
he was another one of those.
ad.
I drafted him in the last round, and I ended up having to drop him for somebody, but just because of the preseason stuff.
Yeah.
He was inactive week 1.
Yeah, well, he's not going to do anything on special teams. Right, but if he's actually in that role as the number 2 and Mixon's banged up, it's a good offense.
Yeah, I think I'm going to put in for him. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a spot, I mean, I'm not cutting something good for him, but,
And then Jalen Wright. Everybody knows about Jalen Wright. That's not a surprise.
I don't know where points are going to come from the team anymore.
Yeah, it's going to be rough.
I'm not sure it kills Achane, but it really hurts Hill. It destroys Waddle.
Yeah.
And just the running back situation is a problem.
But all those double high, 2 high looks that they were seeing, sometimes, 3-man shells, you're not going to see that anymore.
They look a lot different, yeah. And just so many less completions.
Wide receiver is a guy that we're going to see this week. Quentin Johnston. He's
done good things for them.
He's got 18 targets in the first 2 games.
Yeah.
I mentioned yesterday as we were leaving the show, I'm like, I don't know if Joey Porter follows anybody this week.
If anyone, it's him probably.
It would be him, yeah.
Because he's the big physical, first-round pick looking guy.
And he's been they've only thrown the ball 47 times, and he's got 18 targets.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big target share.
Bad as a rookie, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only reason he's out on the wire. Because first-round guys, I mean, if you told me he was a first-round pick a year ago and he's leading his team in targets, you'd think he's in every fantasy league.
Yeah.
He was just that bad as a rookie. But you're allowed to get better.
Yeah. Andre Yasivas owned in 7% of leagues.
That's not doing it for
me. I think Higgins might be back this week.
I mean, are you going to start him in the next 2 weeks in any possible scenario?
That's the thing. Don't cut somebody you drafted over one of these guys. You drafted that guy for a reason. Mm-hmm. Now, if he's shown nothing in the first 2 weeks, okay.
Okay. But I'm cutting those type of guys for the Akers of the world.
You have to look at it, as you just mentioned, am I ever going to start this guy?
Exactly. Where a running back, you might.
Yeah.
Right. Or if you would have picked up a good handcuff Chuba a week ago or something like, one of those guys. Or he's not a good handcuff, but like somebody like that because your 14th round pick looks terrible.
Yeah.
Okay. But don't pick up Yasivas for him.
Yeah.
There's no upside there,
Pick up Jalen Wright or someone like that.
Yeah.
Alec Pierce, I can't go there.
No, I can't go there either.
Juwan Jennings, though, is interesting with Debo out.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to play a lot, and it's a good offense. Probably needs to catch touchdown to make it worth your time.
Yeah.
I mean, he's another one he's hard to check the box on.
But he does have 7 catches for 101 yards in the first 2 games.
They give him money. That's important.
Yeah, they like him.
Yeah.
Jalen Naylor with, Jordan Addison out. I can't go there.
I'm not too psyched about that.
Demarcus Robinson, though.
He's the one.
Yeah.
That's fine. I picked him up when A.J. Brown went out. I picked him up in my league. He didn't do much, but I was kind of shocked he was out there. And then Kupp got hurt, and he's going to get targets.
Yeah. I mentioned Jalen Tolbert yesterday. 9 targets on Sunday.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
He's got a little bit of pedigree, too. He's kind of like the Quentin Johnston.
They're searching for somebody to be that number 2. It might be him.
Like I'm taking a chance on him over Yasivas.
Yeah.
Or somebody like
absolutely.
that. Right,
Colby Parkinson's another one. It's a tight end position that
you have to be pretty desperate, but I understand it.
We've got some guys who are hurt right now.
Yeah, and he's clearly the one there.
Yeah. Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki, we talked a little bit about them yesterday.
I'm more on the Hunter Henry train. I think he's a better football player.
Yeah. Looking at this week's schedule for the streaming defenses. Here we go. Why does it show me week 2? I don't want week 2. Give me week 3.
I don't know who plays who.
that's one of the reasons why we do this little exercise.
Time to start learning on Tuesday.
Thursday night's game, Patriots at Jets.
Definitely Jets, but they're already in your league.
Yeah.
If I had the Patriots, I'm not dumping them and taking a random shot on some
Jets'
other
offensive
team.
line has not been great.
No. I'm fine with both.
Sunday's games, the Browns host the Giants.
Well, you're happy if you still own the Browns. I
Yeah,
think.
and you probably had them as you're not cutting them
you're
anyways.
not
I'm looking for streamers here. Bears are at the Colts. No and no.
I was thinking maybe the Bears.
I
think their D's playing well.
Both of the quarterbacks
Are
struggling. Rough.
Right. I mean, I think they're the two lowest completion percentages in the league.
Yeah. They're kind of mirror images right now.
Right, yeah. That's why I think the Bears' D is better than the Colts' D.
Well, we might be. Let's see what else we can find.
Yeah.
Texans are at the Vikings.
Vikings' D is interesting, but I wouldn't be jumping on this week.
Not this week against Stroud. Eagles at Saints.
Probably neither.
Yeah.
I'm not, fearing the Saints.
No.
I don't think they're putting 50 a week up, but they're kind of hot, and the Eagles' D is not that great.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about it.
Chargers at Steelers. I like both defenses. It's going to be
consider
a low-scoring game.
Yeah.
Both defenses fire them up.
Yep. And they both have four good pass rushers.
Yeah, there's pass rushers. Steelers actually have more than four.
So do the Chargers, actually.
Broncos at Buccaneers.
Bucks.
Bucks.
There's not many D against Denver I'd put on the bench.
Packers at Titans. Packers defense startables?
Yeah, I think so. Titans are good D. They're just in a bad situation. But if Love doesn't play,
if Love doesn't play, you might start the Titans D. That could be a low-scoring game.
Yeah. Those are both good ones.
Panthers at Raiders. You firing up the Raiders defense this week?
Yes, sacks. I don't know if Andy Dalton's any good, by the way. We haven't seen him play for a million years. I mean, I think he's better than what Bryce Young put out there, but I don't know if he's good.
This is a solid start. Dolphins at Seahawks.
Oh, yeah. Seattle's
D
is pretty good.
Yeah.
Well coached. They put a lot of resources into it. Oh, yeah.
Lions at Cardinals. No. Ravens at Cowboys. I can't start either.
I'm
defense.
leaning towards no on both.
Yeah, that might be a shootout.
That could be a shootout.
49ers at Rams. You got
Niners.
49ers are in the league.
They're in your league already. Rams are a no.
Chiefs at Falcons. That's why that win last night was huge for the Falcons.
No on Falcons.
Yeah.
If I had the Chiefs D, I probably wouldn't cut them for this week.
Gonna roll with them.
Yeah.
2 Monday night games this week.
I know. I'm not sure why.
I'm not either. Jaguars at Bills. Fire up that Bills defense, baby.
Yeah.
And Commanders at Bengals.
Bengals D, I don't think it's very good.
I don't think it's good, but the Commanders' offense.
Right.
Hendrickson's going to cause problems.
Yeah, he'll cause problems. I'm not sure they'd be super high on my list.
Against Cornelius, whatever his name is.
Yeah, Lucas and those guys. I don't even think I think Lucas is the bear.
So let's revisit that.
We came up with
what one were we talking about? Bears Colts. I think there's better options this week.
Yeah, like Titans, Packers. It's a good one. Steelers, Chargers.
Yeah.
Steelers are already in the league.
Yeah.
But we came up with 5 or 6 streamers.
Really good streamers. Yeah, real good candidates.
I forget who you said the Bucks played, but it was somebody bad.
The Bucks play Denver.
Yeah, that qualifies.
Yeah, they're gonna. Oh boy, they're gonna
beat
blitz him like crazy.
Yeah, they're gonna blitz him like crazy.
Yeah,
they'll beat them bad. I bet.
Our DFS lineup, it hit this week.
Oh yeah, good.
So we got in the money. Hopefully you played along. I saw some people tweeted me on the
cheating off our paper
X Twitter and said they cashed in on.
What was our lineup again?
Lineup.
Do you have it in front of you?
We had Fields at quarterback, Pacheco at running back, Jordan Mason at running back, Cooper Kupp, Josh Palmer, Malik Neighbors, Brock Bowers, Derrick Henry, and the Patriots defense.
Surprised that cashed out. There was a couple guys who got hurt. They were late in the game.
Pretty big hits, and guys like Pacheco got hurt late.
Yeah.
So,
but Fields didn't produce huge.
Not huge, but not nobody's quarterbacks are.
Huge,
yeah,
right? Quarterbacks aren't putting up fantasy numbers.
So the running stuff does matter in these situations.
Yeah. I mean, as bad as Richardson and Daniels and those guys are, they run a lot. I mean, they're way better for fantasy than the real world right now.
Absolutely. So
and Fields will be in that neighborhood.
Yeah, we'll put together our DFS lineup again on Friday from Friday's show, but we finished in the money. That's all that matters.
Good.
Absolutely.
A lot of injuries too.
Yeah, things are going to start getting a little. Some of the price points are going to start getting adjusted there as well.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll get Neighbors that cheap ever again either.
We're not getting Neighbors that cheap. We're not getting Brock Bowers for $4,400.
No. There's a couple. I was listening to a podcast where they were suggesting he's a top 3 tight end right now for the fantasy. You know, like if we were redrafting
with
like
the target
share.
Yeah. I mean, I had kind of targeted him as my late round guy if I had lost out on everybody else, because I really didn't want to go early on a tight end, and I got him, and I'm like, I couldn't start him in week 1 because of the foot issue.
Yeah,
I'm just going to roll with him now.
But like, if I offered you Andrews, Kincaid, Kelsey, Pitts for him, would you take any of them?
Not right now.
Yeah, I get it. I understand.
The
like
target
McBride,
shares,
I think, is number 1.
Yeah, the target share is too good.
It's too good, and he's a talented dude.
Yeah, they just find ways to get him the ball.
An interesting thing about him, too, is he's done very little after the catch, but he was awesome at that
Awesome,
in Georgia.
yeah.
So I bet that's coming. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. That was the Fantasy Football Focus. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And we are back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And you, of course, can listen to the SNR Drive on the Steelers Audio Network, which hopefully you're doing right now.
Yeah.
We are on live from 4 to 6 every Monday through Friday on Steelers Nation Radio. We're also available on demand, the podcast, on the Steelers official mobile app. So download that to your phone. You can do that. You can also watch on YouTube, which some of you are doing right now. But Matt, I'm looking here at the DVOA stuff here on FTN Fantasy. People, regular listeners to the show, know we're big fans of the DVOA
Absolutely.
numbers. And they have the adjusted playoff odds.
Oh, okay.
Through 2 weeks. Surprisingly enough, the Steelers are second in the AFC North in terms of total chance to make the playoffs.
Okay.
Behind Baltimore.
I mean, they have a 2-game lead on the Ravens, but okay. I can understand that thought process. I mean, like, if you told me, Matt, you're going to Vegas and here's $1, you got to put down who wins the AFC North, I'm not sure that I would pick the Steelers for sure.
I'd still pick Cincinnati, but
I think I'd take Cincy. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why it kind of surprised me, because right now it's Baltimore has a 63.9% chance to make the playoffs. To win the division, they are 38.6% favorites.
Which bucks the odds for an 0-2 team.
Yeah.
You know, to say the
In
least.
a big way.
In a big way. But remember, they were number 1 in DVOA last year.
Correct.
You know, and there is some carryover.
The Steelers have a 22.5% chance to win the division.
Okay, I would bet it's higher than that in my mind.
Yeah. Cincinnati's at 22.1%. Cleveland at 16.8%.
Okay. So they still think it's kind of anyone's division, but really favors Baltimore.
The interesting thing is that when you look at the mean wins, which is looking at the rest of the schedule, right now, remember, the Steelers started at around 8.1, somewhere in that range. They're now at 9.1.
Okay. That's a full win more. That's a lot over 2 weeks.
It's a lot.
Right,
yeah. Right. Baltimore is at 9.7. Cincy's at 8.8. Cleveland at 8.4.
Okay. None of that's crazy to me. It's a lot of stock in the Ravens, though.
Yeah.
You know, that I think is more what they did last year, preseason thoughts, than actually what's occurred so far.
What will be interesting is if Baltimore loses in Dallas this week and the Steelers would also happen to beat the Chargers, coming back and looking at this next Tuesday to see how this has now been adjusted.
And since he plays somebody bad, too.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
and
maybe
Cleveland plays the Giants. And
Yeah. No, these next couple of weeks will probably be pivotal for that.
Yeah.
I mean, Ravens are holding on a little bit.
Yeah.
Because the upcoming schedule is way nastier.
It's Dallas, Buffalo, and Cincy.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they have to get one of the next two. Because then Cincy might be a loser leave town match.
Yeah, they can't go 0-3.
No.
They got to win at least one of the
1-4 is hard.
1 and 2 is hard to come back. 1 and 4 overall is hard to come back
Really
from.
hard to come back from. And I think
because you're a third of the way through your schedule.
Right. I mean, the next 3 games, it feels like they should need a winning record.
Yeah.
And 1-4 is problematic.
Yeah. Big time. I believe that game against Cincinnati's in Cincinnati too. So they got Buffalo at home. They're in Dallas this week, and then they got to travel to Cincy.
Yeah, not easy at all.
No,
they're in trouble.
Looking at the rest of the AFC,
Okay.
Buffalo now has an 81.6% chance to make the playoffs.
You'll be feeling pretty comfortable if you're the Bills right now,
Yeah.
as opposed to 2 weeks ago.
The Jets are at a 46.5%, so the Steelers have a higher chance than the Jets. Miami's at 36.3%. Now, that's not factoring in
Right.
Tua not being available.
Do the Dolphins or New England have a better chance? I'm sure it's still the Dolphins because they're not factoring in Tua.
Yeah.
But in your mind, who has a better chance?
Neither.
Neither.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's really the answer.
Right now, it's New England still has a 25.5% chance to make the playoffs.
Okay.
I don't even think it's that high.
I don't think it's that high either.
Yeah.
Buffalo's sitting pretty.
In
And the
the-
Jets could do quite well.
In the AFC South, Houston with an 87.7% chance to make the playoffs.
That I agree with. I mean, it'd be a real upset if they don't win that division.
Jacksonville's at 28.1%.
And they could turn things around possibly.
Tennessee, that's a better chance than the 1-1 Patriots have.
I agree with that too, though.
Yeah. Tennessee's at 15.1%.
Wow.
Indianapolis is at 13.3%.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, that's really down on both those teams already.
In the West, Kansas City's at 86.3%.
I'd be shocked if they don't get in.
The Chargers are at 48.4%.
2-0 start, considering how the rest of the AFC's gone.
This
Say
is kind of
you
what
want
we've been
about-
talking about.
Yeah, right,
though.
right. I mean, a lot of teams took some major
They're
blows,
eliminating
right.
themselves
Yeah,
right now.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
Like Miami.
Vegas is at 23.7%.
That seems rich, but okay.
And Denver is the lowest in the AFC at 5.4%.
They should be. I mean, they got to be below
They've been
New
bad.
England. Yeah,
They've been bad.
yeah.
Looking at that overall DVOA, just to give us a little look ahead here at the Chargers. In terms of
Current, you're talking about after 2 weeks where they're sitting in DVOA.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's taking a second to load here. Why does it give me the historical? I don't want the historical. Oh wait, there we go. Okay. So right now, New Orleans is number one.
Yeah. And they're actually, after 2 weeks.
One of the highest ever.
Ever, yeah.
91.2% score.
Because, again, I listened to Aaron's podcast yesterday, and he said he picked the Saints to win the South. But he even said this to my face in our podcast, said, only because they're average.
To your face?
Well, we did a video.
Oh, okay.
So we were looking at each other. You know. He was in my basement, but he said, we're picking the Saints because they're average and the rest of the division stinks in their eyes. So they didn't predict the Saints to be great.
Yeah.
But still, I just listening to them, they said, we are not adjusting for opponent yet. Like, yes, what they've done through 2 weeks is historically good, but he said as soon as we adjust for Carolina, it's not going to be historically good.
Yeah.
It'll just be really good. You know what I mean?
I mean, they're number one right now in offense. They're number 3 in defense, and they're number.
I have no idea if they're going to
number 4 in special teams.
It's a pretty strong start. Yeah. I figured
That'll
the
get you
offense
there.
is a distant one.
Yeah. The offense is at 47.7, and nobody.
Wow.
The next closest is not 48.
That's got to be way down.
Yeah. It's 28.9. That's Buffalo. The worst, by the way, is Carolina at minus 61.7.
So they're worse.
100%
Wow.
better.
Yeah. Way. I mean, they're horrific.
Chicago minus 48.6. Denver minus 34.2.
Okay.
Cleveland, by the way, is minus 31.9.
Bad. Yeah.
Really bad.
I don't know what the offense hangs its hat on. So they're one. Saints are one in DVOA.
Saints are one. Second is Seattle.
They've played well. Both sides of the ball have not been. I bet they're 5 or 6 on both sides of the ball, something like that.
6 in offense, 5 on defense,
Yeah,
19
okay.
on special teams.
Okay, you'll take that considering them. They're one of the few teams passing the ball well.
Yeah. The Chargers are third.
Again, there's one team that
Hasn't
like
been
Aaron
adjusted,
said, hasn't
yeah.
been adjusted. The Saints and Chargers are fortunate.
17th on offense. Number 1 on defense and 22nd on special teams.
Yeah, they've only given up 13 points or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, they've given up the fewest points in the league. And again, like I've really dug in the numbers. Their defensive numbers are awesome, but
they played a team that's minus 67.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Saints. The Saints defense is third.
Yeah, because
They
there's
played-
totally ineptitude unit that they're playing against.
Yeah. Minnesota 4th.
I get it. Probably good on both sides of the ball.
13th on offense, 2nd on defense, 8th on special teams.
Yeah. Flores is dialing stuff up.
Houston is 5th.
But they're also good on both sides of the ball.
16th on offense.
Really?
Yeah.
Week 1, what'd they do? I think they kind of struggled a little in week 1.
Yeah. Didn't throw.
I guess they haven't been dominant either week. They've been fine.
Buffalo is 6th.
Okay.
Arizona is 7th.
It's got to be based off the offense.
The offense is 5th. The defense is 15th. The special teams are 13th.
Okay. Yeah, the offense has been dynamite.
And the Steelers are 8th.
I knew they were going to be high. I remember Aaron mentioned that on the podcast.
22nd on offense, 6th on defense, 16th on special teams.
Surprised me they're that low on special teams.
They've had some big returns wiped out.
Yeah.
On punt returns, and they've had some penalties on a couple of those things that have.
Per EPA, they're one of the best on special teams.
Yeah.
Which they usually, EPA and DVOA are usually very similar. Not that they've been great on teams, but they're hitting long field goals.
Right.
I mean, that goes a long way.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm kind of surprised only 6th on defense. Who are the defenses ranked ahead of them right now? The Chargers are at 1.
Saints were ahead of them.
Minnesota's at 2.
Okay.
The Saints are at 3. Houston at 4. Seattle at 5. Pittsburgh at 6.
I get it. I mean, considering what we've seen so far, I wouldn't trade the Steelers D for anyone. I really wouldn't. I mean, the Browns, I think, are the second best defense in my opinion. I think the Steelers are the best defense in the
Cleveland
league.
right now is 12th in defensive DVOA.
Okay. I get it. But I'm
Behind
just talking
Cincinnati.
About that doesn't add up to me.
No. It's just some weirdness to these numbers.
Yeah,
Baltimore is 19th on defense. I mentioned they've given up the most passing yards in the league.
Right. And I know they're harder on you if you're bad against their pass. Huh. Okay.
So, yeah, maybe it doesn't ding Cincinnati quite as hard because they're bad against the run.
Right. I mean, I know that they're kinder to those teams.
Well, and as you mentioned,
plays.
Mahomes didn't throw for a bunch of yards on Sunday.
No, he didn't. And they
didn't
weren't great on defense. I mean, Hendrickson was really good, but I didn't think the Bengals D was overpowering or anything like that.
The other top 10 defenses, Chicago at 7, Buffalo at 8, Tennessee at 9, Detroit at 10.
Bills, Lions, I mean, these are good offenses. I mean, there are not a lot of shocks there,
Those are defense. That's defense.
Oh, defenses. I think the Bills' D's been really good.
It's been
Yeah,
absolutely. As I mentioned, the Steelers 22nd on offense. They're at minus 6.7. The offenses that are worse thus far: Tennessee.
Agreed.
Yeah. Dallas.
Saints game was bad for them.
Yeah.
First game, Dak wasn't awesome either.
Yeah. The Giants. Okay.
Yeah.
The Rams. All banged up.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Miami.
Wow. I mean, that Bills game was miserable.
Horrendous.
And you can't blame Tua.
Horrendous.
History's going to be like, oh, they lost Tua. They lost way before that.
And suddenly that game against the Jaguars where they eked out a win doesn't look quite as good as it did in week 1.
No, Jags aren't great by any stretch.
Vegas.
I thought they'd be higher.
Cleveland.
Cleveland's bad.
Denver, Chicago, and Carolina.
Those three at the bottom.
The 3 teams that are starting
those.
rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah. Like you said, none of them are throwing.
None of them are throwing a touchdown
touchdowns.
pass.
So I pulled up EPA real quick. They have the Steelers as the 3rd ranked defense. Chargers 1, Saints 2, then the Steelers.
So the 2 teams that played Carolina
Ahead
and
of
the Steelers.
And then the Steelers.
Yeah.
Like that, to me, that passes the eyeball test better. And then the Vikes in Chicago behind there. And then on offense, they're, I don't know. I'm looking at a graph. It's not, so they're like 20th. There's probably 10 teams behind them. And the teams you'd think, Denver, Carolina, Chicago. So
I just want to look and see here. After last night, where's Atlanta's offense rank? Atlanta's offense is actually 8th.
Really? That was a pretty good showing last night.
It's a good showing, and Steelers shut that offense down.
Big time, yeah. I figured that's why you're looking it up. Yeah, I think it's, where do you think they'll end up? I think they'll end up in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a
They got
really good
weapons,
offense.
yeah.
I don't trust Atlanta's defense all that much, but I think their offense will come around and be top 10, if not better.
Atlanta's defense is 17th. Their offense is 8th. I mean, if they do that all season.
Yeah, you'll be in the playoff hunt.
Yeah.
You might win double-digit games like that.
Yeah, I think people will look at that win in Atlanta on opening day much differently here in a few weeks. Although, as I mentioned, Atlanta plays Kansas City this week. But their schedule then gets really easy after this.
It does. I knew they had one of the absolute easiest schedules in the league preseason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think come November or whatever, you'll look back in week 1 and be like, that was a really good Steeler win.
Yeah.
And it was.
The Denver one, you might not look at the same. They're bad. That's a bad football team.
I think that's a bad team.
Yeah.
But you handle your business.
Yeah. So, and we'll see what happens this week with this Chargers team. As I mentioned, 17th on offense, first on defense, 22nd on special teams. 22nd on special teams is
a little concerning.
A little eye-opening.
Yeah. I don't know their specialists or what their issues are yet. I don't think they've missed any field goals.
Like I said, the Steelers are 16th.
I don't think they punted all that often against the Panthers.
Steelers are 16th in special teams, DVOA, but they're on the positive side of things.
So it's above 0.
Yeah, they're at 1.1.
Okay.
There are some teams behind them. In fact, 3 teams behind them who are also on the positive side.
A penalty or 2. I'm trying to think what the negatives have been.
The Chargers are minus 3.4. So that's a significant.
That's a big difference. There's a big gap there. Something like that's going to be huge in this game.
Yeah.
I mean,
just something to keep an eye on this week.
We always say it with the Steelers because it means more to this team than the other 31s. But the special teams, the hidden yardage, the penalties, the certainly turnovers are going to be massive in this game.
Yeah.
I mean, because just the way the style both these teams play.
I'm going to be interested to see, too, that the Chargers stayed in Charlotte this week. And
I don't know if that's good or bad.
I don't know if that's good or bad or not.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know
leaving your house for 10 straight days is not, to me, real conducive to
adult men that are millionaires would like to sleep in their nice bed. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he's treating it like training camp, but I think he is treating it like a bonding situation. And he's an odd dude, I think, as everyone knows.
Yeah.
I heard this when it was announced. When he told the team, he's like, so bring a bunch of board games. And I'm like, I don't think they play a lot of board games anymore. You know, like, I don't think they're sitting around playing Monopoly.
Like, the Steelers do some of that at training camp because they're there for a month.
Yeah, sure.
But you're going on you're hopping on a plane and flying across country for 10 days in the middle of your season. Like,
did it really save you that much?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's an odd decision. It's not like you're playing the Jets and the Giants.
I also heard that the Saints.
You still got to travel from Carolina to Pittsburgh.
Right, yeah.
You know,
the Saints are also.
To each other.
The Saints are staying at the Greenbrier this week down in West Virginia.
Who are they playing?
I don't even know. Who we talk about them playing?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. Well, I got to tell you, I still have the schedule here. Saints are playing. They're hosting the Eagles.
Weather or something?
I think there's a hurricane situation in New Orleans.
Okay. What's so great about the Greenbrier? Should I know about
Peyton
this?
always did that though. Not the Saints. Denver's doing that this week.
Oh, okay.
Denver plays. Where are they at? Denver's at Tampa Bay, and then next week, they must be on the East Coast again. So next week, let me call it up here.
So they're doing it after this week's game.
After this week's game, yeah.
Okay.
They are then going to the Jets.
Okay. It still doesn't make a ton of sense to me.
Peyton always took his Saints teams to the Greenbrier, though, to train.
Okay.
Back when he was head coach there.
Should I know something about this resort
Apparently,
that I don't?
he knows. Well, I do know this about the Greenbrier. It was the site of where the United States government had its.
Okay, I was about to ask that question. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Right.
Yeah, that's so where they had the bunker set up there. So if there was a nuclear war, the government would have moved everybody to the Greenbrier. You can now tour those because that news got out.
Okay.
So
I knew there was somewhere in West Virginia that was. I was assuming that was.
It's at that resort.
Okay.
So
okay. I mean, I guess
maybe Sean's he likes going down in the bunker.
It's a cool place to take 53 young men, and go, show them the history a little bit.
In the middle of nowhere, West Virginia.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
There you go.
I don't know what that accomplishes for Harbaugh or Peyton, to be honest with you.
I don't know. The Steelers have never done that.
Yeah.
They've gone early, like a couple days early, to a West Coast game or something like that, but they've never gone and just stayed somewhere, except for Super Bowls. That's different.
That's a totally different world.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think the players would want to come home.
I would think so too.
Right. I mean, the plane flights aren't that brutal.
No, I mean we were
great, but
put it this way: we were back. I was on the Steelers charter for the flight to Denver. We were back in under 3 hours.
And it
was like 2.5 hour flight.
Yeah, I mean, if people don't know, you get on the flight pretty much as soon as the head coach says it's time to go. Like the flight, you're not waiting on the tarmac.
An hour after the game, you're leaving you're bussing out of the stadium. You're on the tarmac. You get on drive you straight out onto the tarmac. You climb onto the plane and you go.
With a police escort, you're not even sitting at red lights.
No,
right? Yeah, right.
So I don't know. Just seems strange to me.
It does. You can sleep on the plane.
They're practicing at NC Charlotte's facility, so you don't even have your facilities to practice at.
Yeah, I mean, it's a
Herbert's
small
dealing
thing.
with an ankle injury of some type. Like, are you getting the treatment that you need?
Yeah, that's a good point too. And like the equipment guy and the grounds crew. I mean, like they're playing a major road game.
Yeah,
I mean, they don't know. Are they capable of washing the clothes? I don't know. There's a lot of logistics to it though.
there really are, and I'll be interested
Why
to see
bother?
if maybe they're just dragging a little bit to start this game this week. I don't know.
Maybe.
We'll
I don't
see.
know if I'd blame that or not, but maybe when the post game interviews come out, like we didn't like stay on the East Coast. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
He is
Weird.
Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. This is The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And we are back. And Matt, let's take a look here at the Chargers roster.
Okay.
Not a team the Steelers play a lot.
No, let's get people
And-
familiar with them. Yeah.
Yeah, let's go position by position here.
A few of the positions you're going to be like, who are those?
Yeah.
It's not as good as you think. For a 2-0 team.
Yeah, they're kind of top heavy.
Yeah. Well, they're building.
Yeah.
I mean, it's step one.
At wide receiver, it's Quentin Johnston, Josh Palmer, Ladd McConkey, with Simi Fehoko, Brendan Rice, and Darius Davis behind them.
You mentioned earlier in the show, Johnson's is the breakout or the story so far. I mean, he's kind of acting as the one. Maybe they can light a fire under him and turn him into something. It'd be a good compliment to McConkey and Palmer.
Yeah. They have 4 tight ends on their roster. One of the few teams that, like the Steelers, have 4.
Mostly blockers.
Hayden Hurst, Will Dissly, Eric Tomlinson, and Stone Smart.
They use the top 3 quite a bit, sort
Yeah.
of like the Steelers do. Hurst is definitely their receiving type tight end.
Yeah. The other guys are more blocking types.
Yeah. But they play a lot.
Offensive line is Rashawn Slater from left to right. Rashawn Slater, Zion Johnson, Bradley Bozeman, Trey Pipkins, and Joe Alt.
I think the tackles are on the verge of being stars, and I think Slater already is. The only reason he's not considered that way is because of injuries. Zion's
The
quite
interior
good.
stuff, Bozeman and Pipkins
Bozeman and the
are-
right guard are
Yeah.
to be had.
Yeah.
They're okay.
That's an area where the Steelers might be able to exploit
I
that.
think they will. Yeah.
Yeah. Running back, it's J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, Hassan Haskins, and Kamani Vidal.
Vidal's been inactive. I think he's not an accomplished special teamer coming out of Troy yet. Gus and J.K. have basically split it right down the middle.
Yeah, I think Edwards has 29 carries and Dobbins has 27.
And Dobbins is way more effective.
Yeah, way more. Like, Edwards is averaging 2.9 yards a carry behind that offensive line.
Yeah, right. Against the Panthers. Right.
Against the Panthers.
Right.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it's actually a close game in the fourth quarter, like I think it probably will be Sunday. Does Dobbins get 75% instead of 20? You know what I mean? Instead of 50.
Yeah. And then, of course, a quarterback, it's Justin Herbert, Easton Stick, and Taylor Heineke.
So they traded for Heineke.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's acting as the 2 or not. But
He's only been there a couple of weeks. So.
He was a late addition.
Yeah.
The D tackles are a little frightening.
Yeah, defensively, the defensive line in general, you're looking at, and it's a 3-4 defense.
Yeah, so the D line is bad.
Morgan Fox, Puna Ford, and Audio Agabana.
Right. These are just, they wouldn't start for the Steelers.
I don't even know if any of them would be in the rotation for the Steelers.
I'm not. I would have to really study their D line. I don't know how many would make this team.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like,
you know what I mean. It's a really bad group,
Yeah.
and there's no pass rush.
But backing those guys up are Justin Iguilbie,
Right. There's a lot
Pierre
of
Tart, and Scott Matlock.
I honestly think it's one of the weakest position groups in the NFL.
It's pretty bad.
It's really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The linebackers, Joey Bosa with Khalil Mack on the other side, and then Dayon Henley and Denzel Perryman in the middle. Junior Colson was a third-round draft pick for them.
The backups to Bosa and Mack are Bud Dupree and I can't say his
Tuli
name.
Tupalotu.
And they really love Tui. I
Yeah.
mean, like, he's a really good player. He's kind of like their Herbig. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he's a 3 on a team that would start for a lot. So, and Bosa and Mack are healthy, so that's a dangerous
Well,
group.
Bosa wasn't healthy last. He was.
Oh, really?
He was banged up in
Last week?
during practice last week.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, he was questionable going into that game, so we'll see where he's at.
Those edge guys are Good, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best part of the defense.
In the secondary, you're looking at the cornerbacks are Asante Samuel with Christian Fulton and Jasir Taylor as the nickelback.
Fulton's played really well, but it's against Panthers.
Yeah.
They love Samuel. I mean, he's not at Porter's level, but they love Samuel. So the corners are the top two are average to above.
Yeah. And then the safeties, Derwin James and Aloy Gilman.
Gilman they brought back. He was a free agent. He had a really good year a year ago. Good player. I mean, he's kind of like their
He was
Elliott.
banged up last week as
Was
well.
he? Was he? I'm not on top of their injuries. Derwin still hasn't gotten back to being a huge difference maker.
Yeah.
I thought he'd be the Hamilton in this defense, and maybe he will. But he's very, very talented. He's standout, but his career hasn't gone the way I thought it would.
No, I mean, early in his career, it looked like he was going to be the next big thing at safety, and that has not been the case.
No, I remember him and Minka are about the same age, and I thought that might be Troy and Ed.
Yeah.
I mean, I really thought they could be the best two safeties for a long time.
And he's good. But
Yeah, he's
not,
fine.
He's good, but he's not great.
Yeah,
Which you expect
had some
great.
injuries too.
Yeah.
And, right. But he's very talented. He's huge. I thought, and it's only 2 games. Harbaugh might turn him back into a player. Maybe injuries have taken their toll on him and been too hard on him. I don't know.
But I mean, when you start looking at this position by position,
there's holes.
This is a team that the Steelers are better than at wide receiver.
Yes, I said before the season, before Dobbins, emerged, I thought they were the worst skill talent in the league.
Yeah, the Steelers.
And Johnson's better.
The
now.
Steelers are better at running back.
Yeah,
they're better at
I'd
wide
love to
receiver.
have Dobbins,
the offensive line, you got to give the nod right now to
yes.
The
it's
Chargers.
like one step ahead of them.
Yeah,
in their development, especially if Siamalu's out.
Steelers tight ends are better.
Oh yeah. I mean, Herbert's obviously better.
They're better at quarterback.
D-line's not even close.
The defensive fronts, even if when you consider Bosa and Mack in the equation, the Steelers are still.
I mean, the 5-man front's way better.
Yeah,
especially at D tackle. Though.
Yeah, I mean defensive tackle, it's not even close.
Right. And I don't think the off-ball linebackers are close.
Yeah, so I mean, this is.
I don't think it's a very good roster. I think it's a year from now. I think it'll be a pretty good roster.
And I would take the Steelers secondary over this one.
I would too. Again, I think it's the best defense in the league.
Yeah,
that doesn't have a lot of holes.
It really doesn't.
The Steelers.
I mean, this is another 2-0 team that people are looking at and saying, "Well, this is NFL.com had them as their number 7 team."
Yeah, right.
What?
I mean, I think
you look at the
Harbaugh's
rosters,
a really good coach, but
comparing the rosters, like the Steelers roster is
still don't
better.
have very many good.
Yeah,
I mean, the defensive line blows me away.
Yeah.
And if you combine it with the 2 inside linebackers, the 3-4, that 5-man triangle, it's pretty soft.
Yeah.
I mean, to say the least. And the safeties are fine, corners are fine, but they're good on the edges.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Up the middle, not so much.
Right. I mean, Frazier could really be a really important player in this game.
Frazier's been really good.
And he's been really, really good.
Really good.
Yep.
So we'll see. Again, making that spending an extra week out here. See what if that has any effect on the Chargers here, and their depth isn't great.
No. Right.
They
hasn't
just
been
don't have
tested
any.
yet.
Yeah.
But right. Again, this was a really salary cap strip team that he took over. Like Herbert was the beauty of taking over this team.
Yeah, that you had that.
But you knew you were getting rid of Keenan Allen or Mike Williams or Bosa or Mack. They decided to keep the edge guys and move on from the receivers. But they knew this was going to be a rebuild year. That's why I'm so shocked that NFL.com and all these other people are like
jumping on board.
Oh yeah, they're just going to be so good this year.
Harbaugh's going to make. Not if you don't have.
He knew what he took over. I mean, it's at least a 2-year project.
Yeah,
you got a quarterback, and now you have an O-line. It's a good start.
It's a good place. Yeah, it's a good place to start. But it's not the finished product.
No. And then there is some similarities to Steelers. Like there's a lot of high picks.
There's a reason why Harbaugh's wanting to play this way because they don't have. The overall talent.
Right. Like their first-round pick next year might be a wideout.
Yeah.
It makes sense,
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Matt, that's going to do it for the show today.
Fun one.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt and I will be back again tomorrow as we are here, as we mentioned, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. You can check that out in a lot of different places. We're everywhere now.
Oh, yeah.
Everywhere. We're mass media superstars. As he says with
Sure are.
Anyways, for my partner, Matt Williamson, for Brian LaMartina here on site, keeping us on the air, and Tyler Vittmeyer, keeping us alive on the video here. I'm Dale Lolley. We appreciate you listening to this edition of The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network.
Steelers football happens here. The Pittsburgh Steelers Audio Network.